Hi there, I'm Joe Francis Dowden and I'm going to show you how to paint a wet, silky beach scene, an evening beach with a little family running across it. The first thing is the colour. Now I don't mind if the colours look a little bit muddy, because if we put strong contrasts into the image, it won't look muddy, it will look pristine and sharp. So first I'm going to mix the colours that we'll be using for this. I call this a two-part grey, cobalt blue and burnt sienna. I put the colours down separately and then, starting with the blue, not the brown, I mix the grey colour. So we take the blue and then we add a little bit of burnt sienna, just a small amount. Naples yellow, we need a lot of this, and I'm going to get various other colours and put them on the palette at the ready. So there's the Naples yellow. We're now going to have a little bit of crimson because I want some violet greys. Not very much of that will be needed. And we need a strong, heavy-duty, dark grey. And for that I'm going to use French ultramarine and burnt umber. And that's a very good way of getting a strong, heavy, blackish grey. So we put those two together. And then I've got two more colours I'm going to be using, cadmium yellow and also a little bit of cadmium orange. So we're ready to roll. The first thing is to wet the whole paper with clean water. The paper I'm using for this painting is Arches 140 pound knot. That's Arches spelt arches. The water will keep it going while you paint. It's very important to keep it wet. We call this letting colour in, applying colour wet in wet to a soaked piece of paper. Now the first colour I'm going to put on is the Naples yellow. This is rather like a controlling medium. All the other colours will go into it. It's a mix of colours, Naples yellow. It's got a little bit of white in it, and into that go the other colours. So there it is, Naples yellow, all over the painting. If you're concerned about the colours going muddy, don't worry about it. The colours will look a little bit muddy, and I don't think it matters all that much, because at the end we'll have strong contrasts. Colours go muddy when you put a lot together, and that's exactly what we're doing. But that's the way to get these subtle shifts in colour all over the painting. So here we go, we'll start with yellow. Now the yellow I'm just going to apply around the general area of the sun. There's the sun, sort of near the middle but over to the left. So there's the yellow around the general area of the sun. And then just around the outside of that, a little bit of orange. This is cadmium orange. And what happens is the Naples yellow moderates it, it weakens it a little bit. Now below the sun in the beach, again, great splash of orangey yellow for the sun's reflection. Now I'm drawing yellow along the horizon area and similarly into the beach. So we're building up the colours. Now you remember that cobalt blue burnt sienna mix? That was the initial mix we made, a grey. So what I'm going to do now is start applying that, and I can shift the colour ever so slightly. So I'm adding a little bit more burnt sienna now to this grey mix. All the colours are there on the palette. They really are looking pretty muddy, but it doesn't matter too much. And we get that onto the paper. It's already drying, so I'm going to put a little bit of clean water onto the paper. And this way we can build up this very subtle mix of colours for the sky. Now I want to get as much colour onto the paper as possible. This is the secret behind getting a nice strong watercolour painting. Put a lot of colour on. Much more than you would think would be necessary. Don't forget that it dries much paler. Can you see that streaking effect along the beach? That's giving us the silky feel of wet sand. But I haven't finished yet. We're now switching over to the ultramarine blue and burnt umber, and we're going to get intense darks at the bottom of the beach. Look at that. See how strong that is? You wouldn't believe it, would you? But it'll dry much paler. And we can see this light area now for the sun's reflection. Now, just bear in mind that the horizon is here. That's the sky, that's the land, and it's all done in one single wash. I'm going to put a little bit of crimson, these delicate crimson colours, and we do this by adding crimson to the sky, and it'll give it a sort of a violety crimson evening look. So that's quite strong, but don't worry, we apply the colour and then we just blend it in. Lovely bit of rose-coloured pink. And in general principle, we keep the central area of the painting lighter, where the sun is. So we start to build up these darks. And now I'm using the darker ultramarine mix on the edge of the sky. So to recap, we started with cobalt blue and burnt sienna as a subtle light grey, and we've built it up with the darker grey of French ultramarine and burnt umber. And we've worked from the edges of the painting to the middle. We've kept the edges dark and the middle light. So as paint dries, it gets paler. And that's why so often your painting looks pale and insipid at the end when it seemed to start out so promising. Counteract that by using really strong colour. Believe me, it works. Look. You get really strong colour in right at the start. So now I'm just going to put a little bit more yellow in, just to make sure we've got that tone for the sun. And just a touch more orange, just to put the heat in. And into the beach. Can you see how it's all blending together on the paper? And that's it. We'll leave it at that and dry it. There, that's done. Look how much paler it's dried. And look at those colours. Very muddy, except in the middle where we've got the yellow and the orange for the sun, and it's all mixed into this Naples yellow. Well, next we're going to do the reflections on this that are going to make it look really wet. And we're going to have soft and blurred reflections, but we're going to keep them under control. How are we going to do that? I'll show you. We're going to use gum arabic. Just a little, not too much. This is a natural constituent of paint anyway, so all we're doing is we're swaying the mix of paint by adding more gum arabic than you'd usually have. I'll show you how we do it. And this will give us super wet looking reflections. Now first, you see these lines here? I've been trying to find the horizon because it's practically disappeared. These lines on the edges, this is the horizon line, and the top one is the horizon line and the bottom one is the base of the pier. So there's a pier out toward the left, and I need to know that because these buildings reflect about a line across the horizon. That simply means their reflections will go down the same height that they go up above the horizon. So now I wet just the part of the beach where I'm going to put these reflections, and then, this is quite important, I add just a little bit of gum arabic. Now this is something that it's very difficult to explain in a book, so watch this, because this is one of the few opportunities I get to show how this works. You get the gum arabic on the brush like that, brush off the excess, and then just put a few strokes in, just along the paper like that, not too much. If you do too much, you'll never get the paint into it. The paint will just keep on disappearing into the gum arabic. So it's just a little and directly onto the paper. That's done. Now, the next thing is to clean the brush and paint the reflections of the buildings. Now I haven't painted the buildings yet, I'm doing these first. The reason for that is that all the buildings and the darker streaks across these reflections are painted second, and I can't paint those in one go unless I've done these lighter marks first. So here we go. Again, I'm just going to use a length on the pencil to see how far up above the horizon that goes, and then therefore how far down. There we go, that's it. So now we just paint these marks and watch what happens to them. They go diffuse and soft focus, but they don't completely blend across. Now if you just paint onto water, what will tend to happen is they'll just merge right across the beach. This way we can get soft focus reflections, and believe me, they really will look wet, especially when we paint the darks across them. Now you'll also notice, if you look above the horizon, that I've remodelled this. This is an old building called the Dome in Worthing, reputed to be Britain's first cinema. I don't know if that's true or not, but it's a much loved landmark. And if you're painting your local landscape or town or village, look for those landmarks and put them in. Very often if you're trying to sell a painting, that's the thing that will sell it. So there we go, the Worthing Dome. Now I just want to make absolutely sure that I've got these soft focus and I've got them far enough below the horizon, and I think that just needs to come down a little bit more. So this is useful because I can show you now how you can make little additions and corrections without a problem. Just add some water there to the bottom, and then we just add a little bit more gum arabic. There we go, and that'll keep it nice and soft focus. Great stuff, this.